name is Ashley Morales, and thank you for joining us for Impact Catalyst. Today on Impact Catalyst, we have Jessica Muroff, Chief Executive Officer of United Way Suncoast. Thank you so much for being here today, Jessica.
Thank you for having me, Ashley.
Absolutely. So many of our readers, our viewers of this are likely familiar with United Way Suncoast, but can you give us an idea of just how much you do in the community?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. At the end of the day, the core essence of what we're doing at United Way Suncoast and our vision is a community that is united to create better opportunities for all. And we do this in a lot of very direct and comprehensive in partnership ways across our region. We really do mobilize the caring, the power of people to give, advocate, and volunteer. And we create pathways for early education and financial stability and youth success so that we can give everyone in our community the freedom to rise. We talk a lot about giving families and individuals the freedom to rise. So United Way Suncoast works with hundreds of nonprofit organizations across the region in these three key areas, as well as offering our own direct services and specific programs that are also aligned with those priorities.
And so that looks like a lot of different ways depending on the needs in the community. So I'm really familiar with your tax prep program, but you also do a lot around food insecurity as well, right?
Yes. So when we think about our work, it's in when we think about this in the frame of four areas: people, place, policy, and practice. So when we say people, we're focusing on our Alice families. So that's a data report that we put out every other year that is measuring how many individuals and families are not earning enough to be able to afford a basic household budget. Those are people earning above the federal poverty line, but still not able to afford that basic household budget and stand just one unexpected expense away from dire circumstances. So that's the people part of it. Place. We also know that there are areas across our region that have a higher ALICE population than others. So we really want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of people and meeting them where they are. And when we talk about practice, this is when we bring our nonprofit partners together. So how are we removing barriers for these families? How are we providing them with the services and support that they need to create that sustainable and thriving future for themselves? And then policy, because we know that we can't program our way out of all of the issues that we're trying to tackle. We also have to make sure that we're looking at policy and making sure that we are advocating for our Alice families to get the support and resources that they need.
So, how has the organization changed since you took over as CEO?
In many different ways. So, a couple of things is one, we are now a completely open grant making process, whereas before we had, nonprofit partners that we had for decades, and we loved those relationships and those partnerships, and some of them we still definitely have. But we also knew that we needed to open up our grant making process to include more in our community to make sure that we were bringing the best of the best to the table to tackle these issues. Another big piece that we have really evolved is behind data. Data really helps to inform our decisions. It really helps us to communicate impact. It really helps us to plan for the future. And it also provides our leaders, our donors, and those who are helping in this work make better decisions. So we've really done so much more with data beyond just measuring our impact. We also take community conditions and community data points and create data visualization dashboards that help our leaders across our community stay on top of how certain issues are being felt and performing in communities. So, for instance, our housing affordability dashboard. We have an early childcare crisis dashboard. We have a whole Tableau library so that anyone can go on and see how United Way investments and partnerships and work is showing up in community. And it's a bunch of different visualizations. So you can see it geographically based. You can see where banking deserts might be. You can see where communities where you have higher thresholds of Alice families. So data is another big piece of this. And then we're doing even more in technology. So I am really excited about some of the ways that we are innovating and connecting directly to our donors. We just did a soft launch of a brand new program called Go United, which will be a one portal that any stakeholder can go to on our website and see their entire relationship with United Way. They'll be able to see their donation history, their volunteer history, any activity or action that they have taken. They'll be able to see all of that wonderful data that I just talked about and all of the wonderful things that United Way and our partners are doing in community. We also just finished a project on measuring our social return on investment. So our donors will know exactly that when they give to $1 to United Way, the financial impact, which, spoiler alert, it's much more than $1 that it has in community, they'll be able to see the impact of their dollars in community. And so this platform that we're building has all of our technology pulled into it. So it's single sign-on and it's the single source of truth. So they'll be able to build their own profile and be able to access that information on demand at any time that they want. So it is really about opening our programs, deepening our technology and our partnership with our and data with our partners, and just trying to be innovative and being in front of what our community needs.
That's incredible because we really live in an interesting time where we don't have to wait 10 years to measure the impact of some of these programs or to know what engages volunteers. With this data and technology, we can figure that out and act on it right away.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited about this because we live in a 24/7 world, right? And I really do want to empower anyone who wants to make a difference to be able to do that immediately and tangibly and stay connected to that and not have to call into United Way. And there's innovation happening across United Ways in our entire country. And to be able to build a digital platform that could be a mechanism for scaling innovation across United Ways is a really exciting proposition. So that's something that is on our future vision dashboard for Go United. But I'm excited that we're bringing this to life and being able to offer this resource to our stakeholders.
And so I know that this year is the 100th anniversary of United Way Suncoast. How are you marking this momentous occasion?
We're celebrating, and we're going to be celebrating for 18 months or so, maybe even 2 years. I don't know. You only turn 100 once. And it's a substantial milestone. I mean, I don't know many businesses that can say they've been in business for 100 years and have weathered all of the storms and changes and pandemics and disasters, all of that. And United Way and our model and what we do and how we show up in community has had that longevity. And that's really what I think is going to empower us to do even more in our second century of service. So we're celebrating with, our stakeholders and donors who have been with us for, we have corporate partners who have been with us for more than 50 years. We have nonprofit partners who have been our partner for 100 years. I mean, the Girl Scouts, the Urban League of Tampa, the Red Cross, like just to name a few that are still very much so partners of ours who have been our partners since day one. So it's celebrating those partners. It's celebrating our donors who have continued to support our mission and our work in community. But it's also, so while it's looking back and celebrating 100 years of striving, 100 years of impact, it's also about looking into the future. So we are raising dollars for some of these more forward-looking and future innovations for United Way. So expanding our early learning work, expanding our capacity building and support for our nonprofit partners, doing more with data, and then also being more nimble and being on the ready to respond to disasters. Because if we've learned anything in these last 4 years, is that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the next disaster is going to occur, and how can United Way be that convening leader on that front, supporting our sector and making sure that we are, being responsive to our communities. So we're excited about celebrating all that we have been and with our partners, but also very much looking forward to a strong future ahead.
Well, you've already kind of answered my next question about looking forward to, part of the strategic vision for the future. Obviously, it's hard to plan for 100 years, but maybe the next 5, 10 years. You mentioned early learning and planning for disaster, which especially here in Florida, that's always top of mind.
Absolutely. So we have piloted some early learning work in Manatee County that we actually been doing there for at least 7 years, if, I think more close to a decade. And we have some work that we've launched in Campbell Park in South St. Petersburg that's really showing some amazing promise and impact. And we're taking all of these programs, and we're learning from them, and we built them to scale. So what I'm really excited about is that we've seen some great results in our early learning work, and we can scale those programs. And so that's something that we're going to be looking to do in the future. And this is critically important because the pandemic was hard on our children, and we are still just under, I think, 50%. As a region, 50% of children entering kindergarten prepared to learn. Half of our children are not entering kindergarten prepared to learn. That just cannot be acceptable, and we have to do better. And we have to do better for our children and for our future. That this is where we know we can have the biggest impact on our region is by investing in this important early learning work to close that gap and not have that many children entering school not prepared. So that's critically important. The other piece is strengthening our sector. So there is a lot, nonprofits, both small and big, right? So there's the grass tops and the grassroots, and they all serve a really critical function in our communities. And so how can we, being that convener and that partner, help to give them the resources and the capacity that they need to do even more in service of Alice families. We just did in our last data review of our funded partners. Because of United Way Suncoast investments, our partners were able to garner an additional $1 million of funding for those programs. And that's significant because you always want that multiplier effect when it comes to impact and community and bringing others to the table on this work. And so when we did our grant making process, we had $18 million over 3 years that we were investing, but we had $50 million worth of requests. So how can we build the capacity of nonprofits to go after and gain additional resources outside of United Way to fill that gap? And that's something that we're investing in for the future.
That's something that I've seen a lot of buy-in recently for nonprofits in our community, understanding not only the power of collective impact, but capacity building, with your neighbors instead of competing, and coming together for those grant dollars. And it's really interesting seeing a lot of the organizations in our area, large and small, like you said, really investing in this collective impact model.
Absolutely. And another place that we're seeing great promise is in our place-based work. So you mentioned VITA, which is critically important, and that is something that United Way Suncoast it continues to grow each and every year. And it's an important point of when we're meeting with an individual or family and understanding their financial picture and being able to further connect them to additional resources. So that's something that our team has really sharpened the saw on over the last few years, is how in all of our programs, how are we closing the loop? So even in our early learning programs, where we are working with a child in a classroom, we're also connecting with those parents and seeing what do the parents need that can help because what's happening at home is impacting the way the child comes to school. So how can we create better family stability, which is in that financial stability piece, so that that child can be successful when they show up at school? So connecting the dots in those areas, and where we do that really well is in our neighborhood centers. So we have 3 physical locations in neighborhoods of need. That's in Sulphur Springs in Tampa, Campbell Park in South St. Pete, and North Greenwood in Clearwater. Where we bring our partners into this location with us. We provide navigation services. There's a computer lab. There's workforce development training. There's a number of other partners that are coming together to serve those neighborhoods, and we build those relationships in those neighborhoods so that they know that they can count on us to get the support and services that they need. And that place-based work is really important to us in stabilizing families and helping them build the future that they had always dreamed for themselves.
I think that's what's really great about not only United Way Suncoast, how much you do, but for people watching this to get involved, no matter what their passion is, no
Oh,
matter
yeah.
what aspects they care about the most, whatever skills they bring to the table, you have a place for them.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the sky's the limit, truly. I mean, we have so many ways for individuals to get involved. And all of that is very easily accessible online. So if somebody did want to volunteer with United Way, they just go to our website, click the volunteer button, and you build a profile, and then you're immediately shown all of the current volunteer openings with our partners and otherwise that you can get involved with. And there's a ton of opportunity out there, and I would encourage anybody who wants to volunteer episodically or even on a regular basis. We've got a space for you.
What are some other ways that people can get involved and support the incredible work that you're doing?
So they can become a donor. We have a lot of different leadership societies when it comes to donors. We have Women United, which is very women, of course, women focused. We have our Admiral Society, our Tocqueville Society, and we also focus on young leaders and getting them involved in meaningful volunteer work because we know that young leaders really want to seek that hands-on connection and getting involved in their communities. And then there's also public policy. So again, when we think about what is impacting Alice families and how we might better serve them in communities, there are also policy things that we are advocating for, objectives that we are advocating for that people in the community, our supporters and stakeholders, could also support and being able to lift up our Alice families.
So even if you don't necessarily have the capacity to pass out groceries or something like that, or if you're politically minded, you can help change the forces that are creating, these issues in our community. That's really cool.
100%. And if anybody ever wanted to see, I mean, everything is accessible. One of my leadership priorities is radical transparency. So our strategic plan is on our website. All of our data and impact data is on our website. You can see our public policy agenda is on our website. All of the Alice data that I'm talking about. So everything is very accessible, and you can really become educated and learn about community conditions in your backyard and in your neighborhood that are impacting your neighbors and others, and how you might be able to get involved with them.
That is wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. I know you guys do an incredible amount of work in the community and in the state and beyond. So we could be here all day talking about the incredible work that you do. But for our viewers watching, visit unitedwaysuncoast.org. Like Jessica said, you can see everything that they're working on and get involved and support. Thank you so much for being here today, Jessica. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ashley.